Yeah, I'm watching the bar as it's saying, setting up your webinar for YouTube Live. Done. Redirecting to YouTube Live. All right. Excellent. All right. Well, we are now live once again. I think we're at week 3 of doing these roundtables. And so this is sort of like another experiment that we are doing here at ADHD Rewired Coaching. And so we're here with our coaches, and we're in the last week of season 35 right now. And the last week of group is always kind of this culmination of so many of the things that we've done in group, from revisiting our relationships with our ADHD, to we have members of our groups toast each other and themselves. So we'll do a quick check-in with everyone here, with Brian and Kristen, and see how is this last week going for you so far?
Well, I'll jump in. This last week is going great. Before I even get into that, I just want to say, Eric, congratulations on 35 seasons of ADHD rewired coaching. We all know that there's so many more resources out here now than when you started, but this program's really been around for a long time. It's really remarkable. And that's what I always convey to our members, is that we are building on the expertise of having over 1,000 people, almost 1,200 move through this
Yeah.
program. That's like it's evolved over time. So it's really unique. So I just want to observe that. I'm not just writing it off that we've done this 35 times already. 35 times 5, 4, 3, 4, 5 sections. So many people. But anyway, moving on. Week 10 is really great. But I mean, in some ways it's the most challenging week, but it's also the most rewarding week, because we've come to the end of our conclusion. The advantages, or one of the things that benefits that we get from having a program that's 10 weeks long, is it's enough time for us to really have to face down our perfectionism, and for time to start get excited about new routines, and then see them break down, and then learn how to pick them up again. And as we get to the end, our a lot of our members are framing it in our mind. Okay, we reached the end of the 10 weeks. What about week 11 and 12 and 13 and 14? And we start thinking about those plans, and a lot of those scary feelings, a lot of that inner saboteur and negative self-talk, and the stories we've been told about ourselves from lifetimes of conditioning, they start coming back up. And that's why we really like to get in touch with that before we move forward. We do that a couple ways with the Dear ADHD letter, which is one of my favorite exercises. And then just this morning, we did the toasts, which is an amazing process and really, really cathartic for a lot of people. Yeah, but it went really well. It's always such a validating experience.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my more favorite weeks, and just seeing people getting to hear their teammates from their accountability team toast each other. It's we know the track record of all the negative messages that we as ADHDers have heard throughout our life. So to have this really sort of focused hour of people basically saying good shit about you, and it's not just I like you, it's I've seen your growth and here's the evidence for what I'm seeing. Like, it's very, very specific feedback. And then it's always interesting to sort of see how people kind of get a little squirmy, as after people are receiving the toast for themselves, they also have to toast themselves, which is, I think, the hardest thing to do, to be able to say, to acknowledge and recognize, hey, I've done really well with these things. Kristen, how has it been for you?
Yeah. First, I would like to pause and add on to Brian. Something that came to my mind when he was celebrating 35 seasons is, Eric, you've done a pretty good job with the program when you have started seeing offspring and siblings in the program, because what they're seeing is a change in their family member. And they're like, I want that too. I think I have coached 3 different relatives recently, who said, yeah, my sister or my mom or my so and so. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. That's very cool.
Oh, yeah.
So
Definitely
And
had
also,
more and more of that.
yeah,
referrals, people telling us that, like, we had somebody coming through who is themselves some kind of coach, saying several of my clients have taken your program and have recommended to me, and now I'm here to take it for myself.
yep,
So
I've
we
heard
hear
that from a
that kind
coach.
of
Yeah.
activity. It's like, we know we're on to something.
Yeah, absolutely. So
That is pretty
that's
cool.
just great. Um, And for this week, it was like a cry fest last night in a good way. Um, Something that is a little different that came up with one of our groups. We got in the rooms to do the toast, and I was with this one group, and they before we could even start, they go, I just don't feel right because so and so can't be here.
Mm,
um a mishap, well, not a mishap, a thing with a baby sick kind of thing. And it was like, no, and they elected to schedule it at their next AT meeting. Myself or one of our admins is going to attend with them, because they were like, no, this just isn't. That's how close they've become and how much they, feel that total interaction being such a benefit that they do want to be able to shower each other and have everyone present in the room. Um, and so I find that amazing. I loved, we did Dear ADHD on our A day also. And that was awesome. You could hear the changes in that relationship and where it's going. And we still heard the, fuck off to ADHD,
yep.
because again, it's what we tell everyone. You're going to go through this program. It's not going to change that you have ADHD, because you're still going to have it. And it's still going to be, back and forth, little internal battle sometimes embracing it. And, it's a whole process.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing that's revelatory for many of our members about that when we go through these exercises like Dear ADHD is like having an environment where it's okay to feel have those let those or express those negative feelings I have about ADHD, but in a supportive context where it's accepted. Like, yeah, you're a good person, you're a fabulous person, but you're still struggling with this, and it's really I'm always so find it so not validating but so rewarding when I see people embrace the idea of growth mindset, which is what comes out in these these Dear ADHD letters, is that we can still see the negative things. We can still accept that the negative things exist, but still choose to frame it in a positive way. And that's what a lot of our members kind of go through that process of letting go of that. Oh, I have to either be super angry about it or I have to be super happy about it all the time. I have to say, oh no, this isn't a problem. I know I'm a great person, and because they know that's the right thing to say. But it's I always say that's what the difference between like real positivity and toxic positivity is.
Mm.
Toxic positivity is just slapping a band-aid on everything. So sometimes we have to like kind of open up, look underneath the surface and see all the negative crap and all the bullshit we have to deal with. Feel free to bleep that. But also choose like, okay, I accept that there's a bunch of negative stuff, but I'm choosing to stay in a positive mind, in a growth mindset anyway. And that's not something we can just tell you to do. It's something that we have to kind of move through as we process a lot of this deep work that we're doing. And to see people kind of like shift their perceptions, like, we get a sense of each other, who we are in like weeks 1 and 2. And then a lot of times we see such an evolution in that by week 10 that like, and that's really the core thing. Like without that, like no matter what other skills or things we teach or bring in, like specific tools we bring in, if we're not ready to genuinely face things with an authentic growth mindset, all those tools will be so much less effective. So that's why this week, when it's really kind of connecting all the dots and coming full circle, it's really, really rewarding.
One of the cool things that we had in our session, one of our members who's actually taken the group before and has come back to take it again. One of the things that we often will tell our group members is that because there's a lot of content and a lot of tools, a lot of strategies that we present in the group, and we always try to help people sort of manage what they're trying to do, because a lot of people will come in and they want to do everything, and we really encourage them to not, right? Like the most important thing we always say is showing up. But meet yourself where you're at, and then kind of identify what are those next 1 to 2 areas to really focus a lot of your attention on, and just knowing that those sort of seeds are there, and they will germinate, but sometimes they're going to lay dormant for a while. And it was really cool. This one of our members who's taken this the group before was kind of reflecting back to some of the other group members, that whole idea of like, we're planting seeds, because she's had that time perspective of doing this previously. It's like it really is. It's like you don't think you've got certain things, and like you realize months, maybe even a year later, they're like, oh, this thing clicks. And I've personally had that experience in my own, both in coaching and therapy, where something I just maybe at that time just wasn't ready for, and then something in life happens, and it's like, oh, that's what they mean by that, or that's I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah.
There's also the idea that the program that we're guiding you through is something to continue on. It's not, for those of you out there who are not familiar with the program yet and are listening to this, it is making some changes about how you do things in your life. How do you plan? How do you process? How do you assess things? And which reminded me that I do the Dear ADH letter also, every single season with every section. And when I went through mine the other night, I was like, wow. I even shared it with him. I was very transparent. I said, this is kind of different for how I usually write to my ADHD. And I was like, that's really interesting. I'm still learning new things. Things it's maybe not like a clicking thing, like I wasn't ready for something. It was that the relationship of where it is with my ADHD now is such that I sound like a different partner in the relationship during the letter. And I found that, to help our members really embrace the idea of taking all these strategies and continuing along the process so that they see what kind of growth that is bringing them, a year from now, 2 months from now, 5 years from now.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
can relate to that. I always go through all my old letters before we do one of these exercises. And going back 2 years, like sometimes I feel like I don't really even know that person in the
Hmm.
first. So that's why some of our members are like, oh, I had expectations about where I was going to be at the end of 10 weeks. And I'm like, we need to look longer term. If we're talking about neuroplasticity, about changing the way our brain works, if we're talking about changing our awareness, that's something, the function of that is time. The analogy I use about it is like, it's like we're steering a big boat, our awareness and our person, and as a big boat, and like that you can shift the rudder, but it takes time for that to take effect. If you're steering like a giant cargo ship, you can shift the rudder, but like it takes a much slower time to move it. So that's why it's like we're changing the programming, but to kind of change the expression of the programming takes a little bit of time. And that's why it's like, 10 weeks, 10 months, or 10 years, the time frame is going to vary from person to person. But what we're kind of doing is it's just like what we're really doing is just shifting the rudder right there. And I don't want to abuse metaphors too much, but we're trying to convey
It's
the fact
okay.
that
A
like it's
good one.
about I
The
love a good
metaphors don't
metaphor. No,
mind.
we've been working with this boat metaphor in my section for weeks now. And so it's just like that's the idea of shifting the time. And it's like, and what keeps you in the position to have that to keep that going long enough is staying in that growth mindset.
Brian,
Uh,
I keep using this growth metaphor with the sale. And people are watching this and they're thinking about joining the group. You might fill it based on that metaphor. You'd really make the sale. I couldn't resist. Okay, so
let's just use that as an anchor point and move on.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm not throwing one out there. I'm just not doing it.
I could feel the eye rolls everywhere. Okay. So the one of the other things that I think was really cool in today's session is we had, people have in our past groups have talked about doing sort of rewatch parties. And so we had someone bring this up, and they've already, not only did they say, like, just they didn't just ask, hey, is anyone interested in like doing some kind of rewatch party? They posted on our online platform with a scheduling survey tool. It says, when are you available to do it? And then just the fact that they initiated that and used the tools of scheduling to make this thing happen was damn exciting.
Eric,
Oh
I've
yeah,
been so proud because in my take two, a lot of my evening group members come. My group from last season, not this season, but the last one, they have been doing this. They have been meeting once a week, and they said, we thought we were going to rewatch them, but what we realized is we just needed to have the conversation and explore either the exercises or the strategies that was put in place. So they kind of like figured it out as they were going. And I think it was someone from your group who keeps coming to take two who discovered that with them. And so, yeah, now it's like our members start feeding each other. and they start growing, together in that way. And I love that. I love
We
that they're
should
doing
mention what
that
Take
already.
Two is, but I want to get Brian's comment and then maybe a quick thing about alumni, and let's wrap it up. We want to keep these short.
Yep.
Okay, what I love it, yeah, as Eric mentioned, this is the part of the season where people start thinking forward. They start getting real nervous, like, oh, I'm so sad that this intensive 10-week is ending. But what about, the coming weeks? And they start, and I encourage this, we workshop this as much as we can about, okay, what are your plans going forward? What systems are you going to put in place to manage it? And this is where it's really starting to come together. People in my group are scheduling co-working, they're scheduling daily check-ins, they're scheduling all these tools they need. But what I always love is that we have a lot of coaching members who get through the 10 weeks, and this is going back to the seed metaphor that we're just planting the seed. We have people, coaching members who say, oh man, all these great tools, and I wish I was implementing them more. And I feel like it went by so fast, I didn't get it. And then we get into this planning thing where they're setting up their future tools. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Look at what you're doing right now.
Right.
You're
Right.
using all the tools. And then I break it down for, I'm like, you're using time blocking, you're using calendar management, you're using leveraging accountability, like all the things that you don't think that you learned, you're implementing them right now. So like it got in there. And when I see like the light bulbs go off over people's heads, they're like, oh my God, I am doing it.
Mhm.
It's really impressive.
It is one of the cool things to be able to reflect back to. It's one of the powerful things about group, that to be able to reflect back people's growth to them, and then be able to actually see it. But one of the things that I think really makes our program, I think, really unique and kind of special is that we know that ADHD doesn't go away after a 10-week program, no matter how amazing our program we think is, right? And so we have so much support continuing for our alumni. We decided over the last years, what we did is we gave people a couple of weeks to sort of get familiar with alumni after group is over. We decided that we really we love our community so much, and we want to keep people together in our community, that we, for 6 months after you join our group, people can stay in alumni without having to for any extra charge. Like, so there's I lead a weekly session, Kristen leads a weekly session, Brian leads a weekly session, and we have a ton of other sessions that are happening that are led by alumni, and it's incredible. And you can have sessions every single day with support and accountability, if you want it, in our community.
Oh,
So
and that's the other thing is it's a platform, not a service. And you can jump in there, and if the tool that you specifically don't need doesn't exist, you can build it. And a lot of people react to that like, oh, that's great, because I need something more to do. But what I've also said is like putting time into that, you get more real. It's bizarrely, if you put energy into
Yes.
creating that, I end up being more productive after I started doing my own productive, because like I had my own accountability, I had my own checkpoints, and like that's like a community-based thing. Once you're emotionally invested in the community because you're putting in, you receive more out. You receive at least as much as you put in.
all right, well, let's try to honor what we said about time here. We're at the looks like the 17-minute mark, so that's right in the middle of our 15 to 20-minute range. So we are going to call this one a wrap. I'm not sure if we're going to be doing this next week because we're going to be in between seasons, but we will be
Yeah,
back
but there's
soon.
something.
Oh,
Let's tease
I
them.
say,
Let's talk
I make a
about
motion. I'm bringing a
What?
motion to the floor to keep going, because
yeah.
I think we
Let's
have
talk
so much to
about
talk about.
self-awareness, or the
Yeah,
pillars or something around this. We've got this.
Well,
yeah.
then, we will see you back here next week.
All right.
So much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.